Welcome back, my little Cooper Dupers, to What to Watch Now, where we talk about what's streaming on Netflix right now.
Diane, 11:30 a.m., February 24th. Entering the town of Twin Peaks, 5 miles south of the Canadian border, 12 miles west of the state line. I've never seen so many trees in my life. As W.C. Fields would say, I'd rather be here than Philadelphia.
Yes, I love motherfucking Twin Peaks so much. I have been waiting months to do this episode. Months. And even now, I know I'm not even going to completely do it justice. Because the day that I am recording and putting out this podcast episode will be February 24th, 2019. 30 years to the day of this important fictional event. Because, like, what the fucking hell? Like, why not? Like, Twin Peaks is so surreal and everything has some deeper meaning. It only feels right to do it justice by waiting to release it on this pivotal day in fictional history. Now, going forward, when we're going to be talking about this show, I will not be acknowledging season 3. I don't acknowledge it. I don't know what happened there. I feel like David Lynch went a little too far off his leash, if you know what I mean. Because the first 2 seasons are perfect to me. Even when people say they drop off and stop watching it, I love all the episodes, including the second season when it gets a little wackadoo with the other serial killer. The ending is dark and macabre, and it makes sense, and as much as I, like anyone else, would love like 18 more seasons of this perfect show, I don't know, like, to me it felt conclusive and made sense. The movie's great, and even the journal, who interestingly enough, it's the perspective of, or it's like Laura Palmer's fictional journal, was written by David Lynch's daughter. And it still creeps my boyfriend out to this day how she did a little too well writing and getting in that headspace. It just makes you ask a lot of questions. But nonetheless, if you were to take in any Twin Peaks content, for sure go watch the first 2 seasons, the movie, and the journal. It will really complete a lot of mysteries that might not be fully expressed or unraveled in just one piece of that material. Did that make sense? Now, how I got into Twin Peaks is kind of funny. I had been suggested it for like a year and a half, and I don't know why I didn't pick it up sooner. I think this is a weird reason not to pick it up, but every time my friend was like, you have to check it out, you have to check it out, and it was hanging out on Netflix. This is back in the day when Netflix didn't change their thumbnails all the time, and the thumbnail for Twin Peaks was a weirdly edited ghostly image of Dale Cooper, who looked blue and green. You could only see his face and the white button part of his shirt. His black suit kind of blended into the background. And I don't know why, but he just really looked a lot like Marshall Matthews. So I kept thinking my friend was trying to get me to watch like an Eminem documentary. And I was like, I don't really care. I mean, I love Eminem, love 8 Mile, but like, I didn't understand why she was just like, you gotta watch it. And then years later, just like on a whim, I randomly thought about what she had said about it, decided to check it out, and I put it on when my boyfriend and I were eating one day, and that was it. We were hooked. I mean, we used to be so serious with one another, being like, you cannot watch a single second or a single episode without the other person coming home from work. We have, to this day, discussions about the show. Like, it's not enough to just watch it once, and it's not someone like being like, think about when you talk about show, like how often or like how deep can you go? Just be like, yeah, I like that show. Me too. I want to get into why I think the show is so, you keep wanting to return to it and talk about it. Now, before we do that, I just wanted to clarify for anybody who's like, what the fuck is Twin Peaks? Why should I watch it? Twin Peaks basically happens on February 24th, 1989. When a local girl who's beloved by many, Lara Palmer, is found dead. And this is like a small town. It's like crazy that she's found like naked wrapped in plastic. And the FBI agent Dale Cooper comes into Twin Peaks to help and work with the local law enforcement. And the show despite how many episodes exist, it only takes place majority-wise over the first 2 weeks of solving her case, and then I think it only expands up to a month. So it's a lot of detail. It's one of those kind of, it's almost like a way of telling a story like Lost, where every moment is like, you don't miss a moment. We're going to have a whole episode repeating a same day because you need to see everybody's perspective in the town and what they were doing at that exact time. And the thing that allures you about the show is how everybody's lives was so affected and intertwined with Lara Palmer in a way most of them don't even know. And it has this like surreal yet realistic mysticism about both the town, the people, and Lara Palmer herself and her death. So that's just the general idea of the plot line, so you're all filled in. Now, I want to talk about why this show deserves like all of its praise, and just something to kind of have fun discussing with your own friends about it if you're like a hardcore fan like I am. The two things that make this show what it is one, the moral gray areas and the general ethics of the show. I mean, there are some really cool things to pull apart in the lore here, but like I said earlier, often you figure out whatever secrets a show has to offer, you enjoy it, you digest it, you move on. But what keeps people returning isn't just the mysticism. It isn't just the mysteries once they're solved. It's talking about like what people did, their motivations, if that was right or wrong. Could they have been different if this didn't happen? Did Lara affect it? Did they affect it? It just becomes a giant conversation of who did what and why. 2, that Lara Palmer, played by Sheryl Lee, lives up to the hype. You know, this show would be nothing if you didn't feel like you gave a shit about Lara Palmer as much as these people do. I mean, think about how many annoying CW shows keep going on and they're like, this person's important, or this guy's handsome, and they just keep repeating it and repeating it, and you're like, bitch, it is subjective. I just do not feel any spark here. I don't care. You want me to care? I don't know. You're just kind of like, even in Twin Peaks, like, you're right away told like you should give a shit about her. Give a shit about her. And on any other show that when people try to do that, they're like, I need to get to know the character. Why? I don't understand. I mean, can you name any other character in all of history that it compels you more than Lara Palmer? You give a shit that she dies. Even when you find out that she isn't who she says she was, you still care and you want to save her as much as everyone else does. That's really, really, really important. And honestly, she's like, not only is she just like generally compelling, her story is really compelling as is, but you kind of, again, this goes back to the moralistic side of it, you constantly ask yourself, did Lara Palmer fuck up other people's lives, or did they fuck up hers? Because there's a lot of little nitpick points you can have breaking that down. I also want to mention that Twin Peaks itself lives up to the hype. I want to live there. I want to experience it. The forest really does feel magical, and it's weird because, again, they just play a little music. The general tells you it's magical. Maybe you see a few pine trees, but like, what makes it different than any other show? I don't know, but you really can feel it and believe when they tell you that. You, again, feel compelled to want to stay in Twin Peaks just like Dale Cooper, and that's one of the most important parts of the show. Okay. Now, excuse me if I kind of like wander around on a couple subjects. I just can't talk about the show enough. I fucking love it. So this is not going to be like the most amazing review ever. It's more just like talking about certain plot points I want to talk about. And to be honest with you, I love Twin Peaks this much that if you want me to go over something I didn't talk about, I would be more than happy to do another podcast. Just let me know. I have a Twitter and an email for this podcast in the link in the description below. Let me know what's up, you know? What was I gonna say? Oh, okay. I wanted to talk about the idea of, like, destiny in the show. It's an important thing talked about over and over and over again. When Dale Cooper is trying to figure out who was involved with Lara Palmer's murder, he does this, I think he even says it's a Buddhist technique or whatever. He's influenced by them. He throws a rock at a jar, and when a name is said by the secretary, if he hits the jar, I think it is, then that person is a suspect or whatever. And he ends up being pretty accurate. So it makes you wonder, like, is Dale Cooper magical? Is it the town? Is it the particular case? Who knows? I will say this. Dale Cooper and Laura Palmer go hand in hand. Like, they just have that same hypnotic, charismatic effect. It kind of only seems appropriate that... And it's kind of almost like a love letter between the two of them, because it's not like Dale Cooper's obsessing over her for his own personal gain or for out of romance. It's just like their lives were meant to interconnect. It feels very believable, which I think is really interesting when you have two people platonically connecting, and not even platonically like friends, or he has so much in common with Lara. It's just like inexplainable. And that shit does really happen. People feel compelled to just be with each other and they don't know why, even if they have nothing in common, like I said. But I wanted to talk about, do you think that the events that happen in the show, because everyone's lives as they break down the series are so intertwined? I mean, at first it just seems like, well, everyone's scheming someone else. You know how Jody is fucking over the sheriff, and then she's being fucked over by, oh fuck, I forgot his name. We'll just call him Dice Man. By Dice Man. And Dice Man's fucking over her and fucking over Ben Horn. It seems like everyone's screwing each other over on a little bit of a legal matter, and that makes sense. But as you dive deeper into people having some sort of relationship with one another, I mean, like, some of these people who are connected to each other have no way of being able to run into one another. Like how Laura Palmer started tutoring Jody, and Jody even making like a weird romantic move on her. That was like crazy and weird. That's something little, if you dive deep into the journal, it's like, damn, everyone wanted to get with poor Lara, which I feel bad for because of like her sexual like history, not only with abuse, but how she too feels confused when she wants to give in and have sex with whoever she wants, but sometimes she feels like it's controlling her and people only see her that way and she only sees herself that way. What I'm trying to say is, do you think that this was all meant to happen, and what was it building up to? Because it gets this build up, this peak, this moment, because even when Bob is kind of taken care of, or so it seems, in the whole Leland, which big reveal, Leland, Laura Palmer's father, was the one that did the deed. He was being possessed by this like supernatural entity, Bob, which, like I said, when I'm saying this out loud, it seems wackadoo. It seems like another corny ass show, but somehow it's grounded in reality and you believe it and you're compelled by it, which is why I think it has such a strong fandom, because some people don't always want to like get into sci-fi and fantasy, like tricked you into that. With it's really compelling. This is like an offshoot tangent, but this show made me appreciate soap operas as a genre and general melodramatic acting, and it made me like, in a really positive, happy way, made me suddenly be aware that I could come to love any genre, movies, and I would even argue music, if it's well done. Which is why I can be kind of intense when I like judge something, because I'm like, you know what? It sucked. Like, I don't mean to be mean. It's not that this, and this wasn't cool, but like, if you did it well enough, I should just like it regardless of whatever it is. I mean, I used to hate horror forever because not only was I very like afraid of it, but I hadn't seen any good shit. And then when I did start seeing good stuff, I just suddenly was totally entranced by this genre I had never fully explored. Just putting that out there. I love that whole like soap opera acting, slow. And also, I will say this too, the slowness in the acting is what really pulls you in and it makes these moments that are weird and surreal have a deeper meaning and a vibe, and makes you like go, okay, I accept that. Like when Donna goes into the room with the old lady and the little boy, and it makes you want to know more of what's happening, but even though you didn't get to know that mystery, in fact, you kind of really like some of the mysteries, you have to like go on Wikipedia and see where they're connected, or go read the source material and stuff like that to find out the answers to those. But even when you don't get the answers, it's like experiencing it was enough. Anyways, back to the Destiny question. Do you think that by the end of it, when Dale Cooper is possessed by Bob, love that great iconic scene where he's smashing his head into the mirror, making that crazy face. We see Bob and all that shit. what was that building up to? What was the ultimate cosmic meaning? Now, there could be none. I could be overthinking this, but considering this show is all about that, I don't think I am. I mean, at one point when Dale looks into his dream with Lara, she even points out, I think it's either like 25 or 27 years later, something like that, that she's going to see him again. You know, why does this weird, other seeming, like out of time and space world give a shit about this one person? And why do they give a shit about this one man? Like, I know that, and again, this is a little bit acknowledging season 3. Apparently they say that Laura Palmer was basically like this purest form of good born at the same time that Bob was born. So like Bob references like pure evil, and then Laura's the opposite of that, so to speak. But what's Dale Cooper? Why is he so wrapped up in all this shit? I just can't help but wonder if everybody's lives, and this is just me after watching The Umbrella Academy, which I just did an episode on, you can check out. They talk about how even the smallest little moment, like the butterfly effect, can affect something else. So that being the case, everybody's interaction with each other is leading to something, a bigger idea. Is it that they are supposed to get on a particular timeline? Is it that they are all kind of pawns in a giant magical machine? I mean, hell, one of the smallest but most important cogs to all of this is the ring Lara wears. I think she either finds or she's given the ring or something like that, but it's this gold signet ring with a jade top with a special mystic symbol. By the way, I fucking want that ring. Like, so hardcore. And not like a dumb Etsy ring. No offense to my Etsy DIYers and self-employed people. I love you. Most of you do a great job. But when I've tried to look up a good Twin Peaks ring, they're always just kind of like a little bubble effect. It's not like a real gold ring, really well done craftsmanship with like the jade insignia. I really, really, really want that. So if anyone knows, please let me know on Twitter or whatever, because I want one so bad. But this ring was actually at one time in effect back in history with some Native Americans that lived in the area and Lewis and Clark themselves. And some mysterious things happen with this ring, and even the Native Americans in the area themselves say like, this ring is evil, this area is special, we stay away from this. They were trying to warn people. We don't even get the full breaking down, but even they were aware that this area that hadn't really been touched or affected by humans was already kind of set out in time. Again, we talk about this all the time in Mystery Storytime podcast, but I'm always wondering, like, I always like to get into like the schematics and ideas when it comes to paranormal stuff, because like, as much as we don't know, I do believe there's a science about it, but because we're talking about like different dimensions and even perceiving things in the fourth dimension, stuff like that, realistically, we don't even have the words or the formulas they'll have to explain it. Maybe things aren't as random as they seem. They just may be really complex to break down, but it doesn't mean things don't have a rhyme or reason. And one thing we talk about, we talked about this too with the Demon House we talked about in Zach Bagans' documentary. So good. You should totally watch it. We were like, was that area, that little rip, that portal for a demon to come through, was that already there? Did that just already exist, or did someone make it come into existence? Part of me believes that some stuff just fucking exists. I mean, we got a hole in our goddamn ozone layer. Doesn't that make sense that there would be, like, holes in the universe between crazy supernatural entities or whatever? Like, I don't know. Like, I just have the belief that anything is possible. And it makes me think that maybe Twin Peaks was like, had a hole and it led to the Black and White Lodge. But instead of it being kind of at random, which is how I feel about a lot of these portals that exist in time and space, whether you're talking about like being able to go through a wormhole, or I'm talking about supernatural crazy shit where like a demon portal can go through. That's a common trope in like haunted houses. They'll be like, there's a demon portal in there. You're like, damn, there's a fucking lot of demon portal real estate. But with this, is it just random, Or did people, like, is it there because they knew that these people in this pinnacle part of time were eventually going to be led here? And that after they were led there, certain events were going to come to play that would make them become the people they were, that then would make them affect each other's lives at a specific point. Maybe everything was leading up to February 24th, 1989. And if that's so, I think it came into place to not only have Lara be affected, and maybe the game all along was to have Lara killed, but her death and the investigation of her death and what she represented might be bringing something together. Maybe I always talk about how the show has like a moral ethic code that's very gray. Sometimes it seems very black and white like the lodges, but a lot of the time it's all over the place and it's fun to express because people really are that complex, especially when you get into these zany type of characters. Maybe because there's this like at odds feeling between good and evil, maybe these people are coming together to create a kind of yin and yang, finally bridge that gap. They are the people, the tethers, the lines in between this severely on opposing ends separated ideas and concepts when it comes to how you should like live life and ideas like good and bad. Their gray moral zone is to purely exist to tie it all in together because we have some characters who are clearly evil, like Bob. And then we have some that are clearly good. I would, like, I don't know. I mean, I guess Shelley is a little bit gray, but, like, I would consider Shelley up there with, like, the goody two-shoes-ness of it all. And that being the case, everybody kind of really gray in between, like, Audrey and stuff like that, are helping be one minor, like, they're a little bit less bad than they are good. And then on the other end of the spectrum, there's someone a little more good than they are bad. And it's all kind of coming together, you know? Who knows? Like, people might be living their lives anywhere else in the United States or in the world and have no idea that this one place is so significant. That also brings me up to my point with the idea with, like, Bob. Like, do you think Bob won? Like, I know it's not about him winning or losing. Like, I'm sure that's not what he was thinking. He was just obsessed with Laura. But it is. It is about winning or losing. He had a goal. And I love the idea of thinking, did he win or didn't he? His goal was to torment her, so for a long time he was winning. But he also wanted to possess her, which is crazy. And towards the end, he put her through so much that she ended up dying, and she kind of allowed herself to die. Did she lose because she died, or did she win because she was finally free of him and he could no longer be affected by her? That's why I had a huge problem. I know I said I was going to stay away from season 3, but I'll just mention a little bit. That's why I had a huge problem with them trying to say that Lara was somehow this, like, pinnacle of goodness, and that's why Bob was so drawn to her, because he wanted to corrupt her utter goodness. It kind of is, like, a really dark ending. I don't think it's enough. Like, life's not that simple. I do really believe in the universe it is such a healthy balance between good and bad affecting one another. And honestly, if we look at it, like, he severely affected her and most of her life and fucked it up and really corrupted her a lot of the time. So how, like, I don't know, I feel like if she was such a force of good, wouldn't it make sense that she would have some sort of strength to extra strength, maybe beyond superhuman strength to fight a lot of it off? Not that, keep in mind, she was just simply a human. Everything she went through traumatically makes sense how she responded. But I'm just talking on, like, because this is a bit cosmic and they're making this big cosmic deal about her existence. And then by her dying, isn't that saying, like, he killed goodness? And then isn't that kind of like a dark view to say, like, well, evil always wins. Haha, great ending. I don't like to see it that way. I'd like to pretend that she was finally free of that torment and could live her life as she wanted to, that good could never truly be snubbed out. Because if he had successfully possessed her, I think he would have won. But by him not being able to do that, he was then unfulfilled. He had nothing really to focus on. Corrupt. I guess his next thing was Dale Cooper, because Dale Cooper really is truly... I think Dale Cooper, honestly, has more of that essence of pure goodness than Laura did. Because I don't think Laura was, like, an evil person, but she did have times when she was manipulating people and doing what she wanted to do. And I do view it in a very gray zone sense, especially her past and what she's been through and the continuous abuse from Bob over the years from her childhood on. But the thing is, Dale never wavered, and he was under some intense stakes, even with temptation, like Audrey. His love with Audrey was so sweet, and he really was into her. Them being together wouldn't have been a bad thing. I know she was a teenager, and that's why he was doing the right thing by not being with her, but, like, he wouldn't have been purely evil if he'd given in to that connection. But even then, he doesn't give in because he knows the right thing. And he also doesn't want to compromise the case or affect her life in a way where he knows he might not be able, like with his past and his own sadness with the woman he previously loved. He doesn't want anyone to get hurt, and he still makes the right decision. He sometimes has to take on listening to some really gross stuff when he's at One-Eyed Jack's, and even then he doesn't what's it called, like, if we were Lara, she was subjected to some gross shit, she slowly gave into it more or was, like, affected. And I guess what I'm trying to say is, like, when you're quote unquote bad or evil, you can really just be bad or evil. There's nothing that can really fuck you up because you're already the fucked up part of it. But being good and staying good is truly like a feat in itself when you're being affected or influenced. Like, a lot of the time I always think about how we're going on, fuck it, we're going on a whole rant here. I hope you're still down with the podcast and you're enjoying it. I try to usually organize my thoughts, but this is one of those shows that I'm welcoming a tangent rant because it's all beautifully leading to something else. But I kind of always feel really mixed feelings when sometimes people give that type of advice of being like, just think positive, you know, try not to focus on that, or that just general type of like blanket advice to fix a problem that's really complex. If you're in a bad place, it's easy to just say, like, fuck you, you don't know what I'm going through, that's the dumbest advice ever. Oh yeah, I'll just suddenly not be anxious. Thanks, like I haven't tried that. But on the other hand, it's not that the advice still isn't good, it's just too simplified, and you kind of need a little bit of a bridging gap before you can even get into the headspace of being able to think positively. Like, you need something to just not think about whatever trauma you went through. And then in addition to that, this goes back to the idea of, like, how good can be affected in a negative way. So, when you're good, the second you learn or experience a traumatic event, you now know the truth. You can't be told, don't worry about that, because you can go, well, I experienced that. I now know it's possible, and a part of my, like, bubble has been popped a little bit, and I'm struggling to keep up with that positive attitude or keep good or whatever the situation is, because now I know. So all you have to do is just tell a good person a bunch of things they didn't know about, and you're kind of already fucking with their shit. So that's why evil kind of has, like, more of an advantage in this world. And with Lara, like, we definitely saw the effects of that. Like, how could she possibly stay good being given what she went through? I mean, even gross shit, like how Benjamin Horne as a child gave her that white horse. Like, he clearly was lusting after her as, like, a child. Like, even then, as a young girl, she felt uncomfortable knowing that. It was fucking weird. Like, she even banged him later, but I don't know if she even really wanted that. She just kind of did it to close that chapter in her life. Like, that's dark as shit. But then Dale is told the creepy way she died, how much Jacques is enjoying talking about it. And even after the death he's seen, the gross things he's heard about, he still always believes in the best of people. Even Albert, who can be an asshole, he's still fighting for him and knows and sees the good in him. I mean, don't get me wrong, Laura Palmer's like, I love my girl, Laura Palmer. But let's be real here. Who's really been born out of goodness and has that supernatural advantage to keep pushing through the muck? Dale Cooper. So that's why I'm having the whole conversation of, like, do you think there was some sort of winning or losing when it came to Bob and Laura's, like, that pinnacle moment when she died and she was being attacked? I just want to know your perspective. Send it to me. Also, I want to have a moment to give a special love letter to two particular plot lines that I unexpectedly love and enjoy. One, the whole Donna, James, and Maddie thing is so funny to me. I love that they made Maddie exist. Sheryl Lee was just so loved by David Lynch and the others that they basically they were like, okay, well, wait, shit, we don't want to, like, waste this, like, talented actress, which, by the way, you should look up So she's so iconic in Twin Peaks, but you can't really probably name anything else she's been in. She's actually like really big in kind of like the B-roll horror movie world. She's one of those actresses that is made a real name for herself and still continue to go on and have an amazing career, but you if you're not like watching that genre and it's not a mainstream type thing, you'd have no idea. So I think that's really great because I would have been so sad to see her just perfectly good talent wasted. I mean, very rarely are we so compelled by someone. And honestly, the reason why I give that importance is I don't hold celebrities on a pedestal. I don't think everyone's like flawless, or nor do I nearly condemn everyone who makes a mistake. But to me, movies and TV shows are magic. They take you away. They make you experience something that you'll never experience. It's so fun to kind of like, we talked about time portals. It's like you're just dipping into a timeline for a second. So I get kind of fucking pissed off. I get kind of seriously pissed off when something's good, but maybe the actors aren't the right person pitched for the plot line, or they're not that great. But then I also go crazy happy and can't express enough good things about them when I feel like they are carrying out that idea. And to me, Sheryl Lee did the impossible. Anyways, we're going back to like perfectly casted and fun subplot lines. I don't know why I went off that tangent, but the whole Donna Jane. Oh, I remember why I brought up. Sorry, I went on a tangent there. Sheryl Lee got then cast as Maddie, Sheryl Lee's cousin, and I loved how she went in there and she just fucked up the Donna and James thing. I also loved the convoluted romance that Lara was with Bobby, but then she saw Bobby kind of clearly wanting to be with Shelley, but she actually, this is how sweet Lara is, and not in a naive way, but like someone who clearly understands and can take herself out of the bigger picture and see what's the right thing to do, and sees that Bobby and Shelley were meant to be together and is happy for them, especially when she feels like she was just fucking with his like sweetness and laughing at him when she was like taking his virginity and dark shit like that. And then at the same time, she is starting to date and secretly be with James. And then, even then, secretly, James, towards the end, is starting to feel a connection to Donna. But interestingly enough, out of all the relationships, Donna and James are really only together because of their love of Lara. Like, they do really like each other. I think that's genuine. But I think that's what caused the interest in Donna. I don't think he fell out of love with Lara. That's why it gets really overwhelming for Donna when he's attracted to Maddie one point because Maddie has like a disguise as Lara, or he's just thinking about Lara. Like, he never lost his love for Lara. He just, through the kind of whimsy and connection that Donna created, it became weird and incestuous. Obviously, no one's related, but all I'm saying is, like, I've actually personally experienced that. I know what that's like when you're kind of all hanging out as a group and there's just some magic chemistry there. You can't quite explain it. And you can see how people start to be interested in you or in others because of that type of chemistry. I understand. I can like fathom it is what I'm saying, and it's a really interesting and complex role because nowadays TV always wants it to be definitive, like James only liked her or he was cheating on Lara, and it's really not that simple. Again, another beautiful part about Twin Peaks, because nothing's ever simple. There's so much left to discuss and from different angles. So anyways, the thing that I loved about it is how over the top Donna had to be. Like when she would try to be a bad girl and smoke her little cigarettes and wear Laura Palmer's sunglasses, or when I loved, honestly, I was very compelled by the great speech Donna says when she says, you're gone and your shit still keeps, sticking around. Like, you caused so much shit in all of our lives. Like, it sucks because we love you and we can't stay away, but you fucking, like, left a mess, and even you're gone and it's still here, and it's coming from someone who still loves her and misses her. Great speech. But the whole Donna and James and even Maddie involved relationship is fucking hysterical because Donna is obviously upset that James keeps going back and forth. I mean, he just went from fucking his dead girlfriend Laura Palmer to Donna to Maddie. And the fact that he is seen as somehow innocent cracks me up because I really do think there's a certain naive quality to James. Like, he truly isn't taking in any of his terrible actions, but I'm like, let me just write that on paper, James. You, like, 3 weeks ago, started dating a girl who already had a boyfriend. Then you started cheating on her and continued to keep dating the girlfriend you were cheating with, even though she died. And then you started to kind of, even though you were still with this new girl before the relationship could really bloom, started to kind of have interest with someone else. Like, damn, James, keep it in your fucking pants. I loved their over-the-top relationship. I always loved whenever it seemed like they were going to finally be together, James was always needing to, like, run off. Remember in the second season when he runs off and then he ends up being involved with that makeshift scam with the couple? It's just so funny to me. I know it's supposed to be really serious and whatever, but there's something very comedic in my heart about the whole thing that I love and I can't get enough of. I know that's probably not the intention of it, but that gives like an extra layer of love for me with the whole Twin Peaks thing. The other person I want to stand out to that I'm like devastated wasn't in more iconic roles because thankfully Sheryl Lee got to go on and really have a career of her own and in general a lot of other things. But someone who stands out to me like nobody's business is Harold Smith, the guy, the recluse who grew like a ton of orchids. From the way he looked, the way he acted, I don't know, it was hypnotizing. I loved his innocence even at his age. I love that if you read the journal, Laura Palmer and him actually slept together, but she kind of forced it and it made him very uncomfortable and upset, and she kind of felt like she had basically sexually assaulted him, which is terrible. But even then, he was still compelled to protect her secrets, and he was a perfect secret keeper. I can see why she would want him to be. Not just because of the practicality that he's a recluse, but he really is just so sweet, and he kind of has this vibe about him that's almost like, I talked about how being good involves not being, like, fucked with or taking on certain knowledge. Well, Harold Smith was a metaphor for that. The way he wouldn't leave the world, experience anything popping his bubble, his orchid-like bubble. And he was willing to be there for Lara and understand her without judgment. And that was huge for Lara, to have someone that wasn't fucked up. Because look, who did she have to admire? Everyone around her was secretly having an affair. I mean, her dad, like, besides, like, what he was doing and the fact that, like, he was basically Bob being possessed and all that fucked up shit. He was a lawyer willing to do scammy shit with Ben Horn. And as the list goes on, I mean, even Donna, like, she loved Donna. But as kind and naive as Donna was willing to do some bad girl shit, and Lara didn't want that. She wanted to protect her friend and make sure she wasn't, her bubble wasn't popped, so to speak. And she had no one that was truly free of it all, free of all the influence, and he was it. She could truly be herself in a way she never got to foster. She never had a chance to foster her good side, ever, with all the corruption that was in that town. So, love Harold Smith. You should actually look him up. His IMDb, like, when you take, like, a headshot. The man is, like, fucking stunning. Even to this day, like, his eyes are, like, really white, light blue. He's got this beautiful gray hair. What I'm saying is, it broke my heart when I looked into his IMDb because I was like, this guy's so fucking talented. I can't wait to see any secret movies he's been in that I can watch. And he wasn't in a ton of stuff or didn't have a ton of main, casting parts, which is such a fucking shame because he was like unbelievable. Again, he's one of those side characters where you experience him for 2 seconds, but he's so compelling as an actor that you're like, I want more. Let me see if there's anything else I wanted to talk about. I said a seemingly normal events. Oh, I just love that the show has I think another strength of the show, the fact that it has a lot of seemingly normal events that actually are shrouded with a ton of evil. Just little things, like it can be like Lara going out, but then you learn Lara's actually selling, sexy photos of herself and banging people, kind of in a sex worker way, and One-Eyed Jacks, and fully aware of all that shit. But then even underneath all that layers, you learn it's because she's dealing with a fucking demon trying to hunt her down and possess her soul, and I really liked that element. It's like the layers never stopped being peeled back, and even when you got to the core, there was still so much perspective to unravel. And then the last thing I want to say to go off on is, so you're an OG, you listen to this whole podcast, you want to know what are some great fun games I can watch, because I love Twin Peaks so much because it's immersive and all that jazz. What can I do to feel Twin Peaksy. If you have a Nintendo Switch, I think some of these things are also on other devices, but I played mine on Nintendo Switch. Look up Thimbleweed Park, which is currently free right now, actually, on the PC. You should look that up. They're having a sale till March 7th. Definitely play that game. Thimbleweed Park and The Darkside Detective. The Darkside Detective is unbelievably funny and self-aware and really good, but they are both great point-and-click adventure games. They are relaxing. There's no rush. There's no worry of someone going to die. But it's like a fun mystery unravel. It has a very similar tone and eerie, surreal mysticism vibe to it. I think you will just really, 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 really love both of them. And I'm just suggesting that because I am at a point where, like, I get so engrossed with, like, detective shows that after playing these two games, I've started having, like, some insane fucking dreams. But that's a side note. I shouldn't bore you with that. Anyways, guys, if you enjoyed this podcast, please give it a 5-star review on iTunes. Follow me, subscribe on whatever platform you're listening to. And I just love you guys so much in the most platonic way possible. Have a wonderful day. I will talk to you in the next episode. It's February 24th, y'all! Bye!